What's going on? Welcome to the adventures of a psychic therapist, and I'm Vincent Jenna, your psychic medium and spiritual teacher. One of the reasons why I'm doing these videos and share these stories is that maybe somehow you can relate to them in some way that helps you in your personal life. Some of the stories are funny and entertaining, and others are pretty serious, like the one I'd like to share with you today. A young woman had come to me in person in her 30s, and she was pretty upset when she was sitting in front of me, almost on the verge of tears. Apparently some loved ones had died fairly recently, and she was wondering if I can make a connection with them. Well, right off the bat, a female spirit, very nurturing mother type of female spirit came in, and I asked her, I says, "Is your mother deceased?" And she said, "Yes." I said, and she actually died unexpectedly. Is that correct? Yes. And isn't it true that there was some kind of tragedy? I felt some great distress over this woman dying. And as I was going there, of course, the client was becoming more and more tearful. Yes. And all I kept hearing the mom spirit say is, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." So I was also picking up that this client was feeling a great amount of guilt, and that there was a great amount of animosity towards her because of this guilt. And she was validating all these things that I was saying, and she's not getting along with her family, and her family is all upset. And so I'm continuing to talk with Mom, and Mom said she's glad she did what she did, but she knows that maybe it was not necessarily the greatest choice. So, and I'm hearing this, getting an understanding and getting a feeling too about everything that was going on. Then all of a sudden, a male spirit came in. And the male spirit came up towards Mom, and Mom, I saw in my mind's eye, Mom grab him by the arm and pull him close right next to her. And I started to share this with the daughter. I said, well, there's a male figure that just came in, and Mom seems to be nurturing him and pulling him in. And this is a male that was closely related to you. Isn't that correct? Yes. And I got that his age, he was young. He was almost as young, about as young as my client, in his 30s also. Yes, yes. And there was a tragedy and a negativity behind his death as well. Yes, yes. And she's crying even more so. And I'm like figuring, oh my goodness. I said, it wasn't an accident, was it? It wasn't accidental, and it wasn't a physical illness. Isn't that correct? And she affirmed that as well. And Mom was even telling me, no, it wasn't that. And so they stopped for a moment, and I was going into this girl's background and saying, you have a very close-knit family, culturally as well. Family is very important, but I'm feeling that there's conflict with the family for you right now, isn't there? And she is saying, yes, there is. It's terrible. It's me. It's all about me. And I'm like, no. I keep hearing that you can't blame yourself. You have to let go of this, and you have to be able to move on. So my own curiosity is being piqued. I mean, you have to understand, when I am doing these readings and I start tapping into these things and I get these incredible, intense stories from these clients, I mean, it piques my interest as well. I'm like sitting there going, what the heck could have gone on over here? Well, that question would soon be answered, because they were telling me. And apparently, the husband committed suicide. That's how he died. But that wasn't the only issue. So I'm like, well, Mom didn't she wasn't sick either. And why is she feeling so much guilt? Is she blaming? You're blaming yourself over your husband's death? And part of her is saying, yes, I know, but I had to do what I did. And so I also felt that there was discourse between the husband and wife to start with. I said the two of you were having trouble in your marriage, and I went into his past and the fact that he was in the military, so there was something very structured and disciplined about him, but also very, very emotionally hidden and unavailable. And that usually happens with people that are in the military. So I felt that, and I'm like, that got in the way of your marriage. And weren't the two of you having some really hard times? And there were no children involved. Isn't that correct? And she validated that. And I said, and the two of you were separating. You said, were you planning on getting a divorce from your husband? She says, yes, that's where the problem was. So I got all of these details, and it had turned out that the wife left the husband, and he was pretty upset about that. And she was just leaving everything behind because apparently he was abusive, which is also what I came out with and understood. And she just wanted to leave him, and he did not want a divorce. He didn't like that idea. And she had gone back and lived with her parents, moved back into her parents' home until she can establish herself in her own place. And her family members were all like, I can't believe you left everything behind. You know, you shouldn't have left everything. Don't leave everything to him. You've got all your possessions there. So one day, after hearing all of that, she said, okay, all right, fine. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go get everything. And the mom and the dad were pretty concerned that there may be some trouble, possibly even some harm that her husband could cause her. So the mother turns around and says, no, hon, you stay here. I'll go back to the house and pick up some of your things. So the mother leaves the home, goes and drives to her daughter's home, and it turns out that her husband was in the home. And when the mother walked in, the husband had a gun in his hand. He was about ready to commit suicide, and she interrupted it. But because he was so distraught, and he was so upset, and so taken back by the fact that the mother-in-law had just walked in, and she was like yelling, what are you doing? Put the gun down. This is not the way that you deal with this. We can fix this. Well, the husband had gotten so upset, he pointed the gun at the mother, shot her, killed her dead, turned the gun on himself, bam, shoots himself in the head. Both of them dead on the floor. Well, they're back at the home, and they don't hear anything back from the mother. The mother's not calling them, and a time has gone by, and it's been too long. So they call the police, wondering, feeling that there's something wrong with this. The police get to the home and discover both the mother and the husband dead. Dead. This is what this girl was left with. So she did nothing but blame herself. I did everything I could to help her. I made that connection. And the thing is that the mother was forgiving her son-in-law. That's why she had grabbed him and pulled him in. And she wanted the daughter to know it's okay, we're okay. I would have rather it be me than you, because had the wife gone back and caught the husband, he would have shot her instead. So the family, they were blaming the daughter. They were blaming this young woman, this client that was sitting in front of me, that if it wasn't for you, if you didn't decide to want your stuff back, mom wouldn't have gone to the house. The sisters were all on top of her. And there was a lot of chaos and hurt and pain. Can you imagine that? This is the type of stories that I deal with at times. There's craziness out there in the world, but there's always ways to get through it, to be helped, and to be able to move on. So because mom came to me, and then of course the husband started speaking and asking for forgiveness, that once he got to the other side, he saw the big picture, and he was upset for what had happened. And of course, My goodness, he is filled and ridden with guilt. Even on the other side, you can feel guilt. Guilt that he killed her mother, their family member, broke apart the family from that. Well, I was able to get her to a certain level of comfort, and she knew that she was going to require more work. But the moral of the story was, because I was able to make this connection, and because Mom was able to give wonderful details and evidence that it was her, and the husband gave evidence that it was him, this woman knew at least the both of them were okay. At least Mom had forgiven him, and he was working on forgiving himself. And with that understanding, she was able to relieve some of her pain and hurt. But I can tell you, the adventures of a psychic therapist, it doesn't end. And there's more stories to come. Thank you for joining me on this one. And we'll see you on the other side. Or hopefully before that. Bye-bye now.